Hi, good morning. My name is Jayanti, and I've done my master's in forensic science and bachelor's in zoology. I'm a net qualified. I secured All India rank 1 in the entrance of my master's. I've done my master's from NFSU in Delhi itself. So, right now I'm living in Delhi, though I hail from Rajasthan. So, today I'll be taking up a topic in botany, which is nitrogen cycle. Now, if someone asks me why do I love teaching or why am I taking this topic, so I've seen students struggling with botany a lot. They have confusions, they are finding it hard to learn, hard to retain. So, I am going to present this nitrogen cycle in a different way where it'll be easy for you to learn and understand. So, botany is not a subject to just cram, it is to understand. There are meanings of everything, and let's discuss nitrogen cycle without any delay. So, yeah, nitrogen cycle is a cycle of how the atmospheric nitrogen is fixed into other forms so that plant can absorb that other form. Okay, so why plant cannot absorb nitrogen in the form of N2? That's a good question. But yeah, N2 for fixation of N2 into other form, they require an enzyme known as nitrogenase. Now that nitrogenase enzyme is not with the plants. No, the plant is lacking that enzyme. So there are different bacteria present in the environment, in the soil, which help us the conversion of the nitrogen to other forms like ammonia, nitrite, nitrate. Okay, so I'll Okay, so that's nitrogen cycle. Now, what are the four main steps? So we are having four main steps. First is nitrogen fixation, that the atmospheric nitrogen is being fixed into other forms like ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, as I already told you. Then that nitrate or nitrite, it is being taken up by plant, that is nitrification. Nitrification is nothing but that ammonia. Suppose some of the bacteria in the environment, they just convert nitrogen into ammonia. Now, can the plant absorb nitrogen in the form of ammonia? No, sorry. Why? Okay, so ammonia being very toxic, it cannot be taken up by plant. No, it can be used up by plant, but it cannot be taken up by plant, and it cannot go from the root to the leaves. Okay, so how it is taken up? So that ammonia is converted into nitrates and then into nitrites, and that nitrite or the nitrate form is taken up by plant. Then the plant fixes that nitrogen in other forms, like it makes the protein, amino acid. Now that's the building block of the plant. After that, suppose the plant dies or that plant has been eaten by any other animal or human being, and if that human being or the animal dies, then what happens? Now there was the plant biomass. There are different complex proteins present. That complex proteins are being broken down into simpler and then into amino acid. That process where we convert the plant biomass into ammonia, that is ammonification. Now that ammonia is being converted, is being given back to the environment. So we took nitrogen in the form of N2. Now that ammonia is taken up by certain bacteria and they convert it into N2 and fix the nitrogen. So that is denitrification. So this is in short, I've told you like how nitrogen cycle works, what are the different steps. Now I'll tell you in detail about each and every step. Okay, so here it is. I have this nitrogen in the form of N2 here. That N2 is taken up from the atmosphere. So atmosphere is having all nitrogen. This nitrogen is in the form of N triple bond N, where the bonds are very strong, not much reactive, I would say. Yeah, so now what happens? For the first step, I already told you nitrogen fixation. There are certain kind of bacterias involved. So bacterias are like blue-green algae and different normal bacterias. So these bacterias, they actually live in loose association. They can be symbiotic or they freely living in the soil and converting nitrogen into nitrites, and that nitrite being converted into nitrates and then taken up by the plant biomass. So I'll tell you how it happens and what is the procedure. So first is biological nitrogen fixation, where we have this atmospheric nitrogen which is being converted into what form? Yes, into either the ammonia form or the nitrite form or the nitrate forms. So there are different two types of basic bacteria if I talk about the normal ones and the blue-green algae. So why the blue-green algae? They have a certain pigment. That's why they are called as blue-green algae. Okay, so bacteria can fix nitrogen in many ways. Like they can be free living, they can be symbiotic, they can have loose association. So free living means they don't require anything else. They are living in the soil and converting the atmospheric nitrogen into any of the form. It can be, and the free living examples are, yes, Azotobacter and Bacillus. It can be of the other way, symbiotic. Symbiotic is where they form an association with the plant. That is, they live in the plant root and then fixes nitrogen for the plant. The example of symbiotic is Frankia and Rhizobium. Loose association means, yes, they live freely though, but when at the time of nitrogen fixation, they can also associate with the plant. So that is Azospirillum. Now, if I talk about what are the free living blue-green algae, so there are two type of algae, blue-green algae, I would say, nostoc and Anabaena. So this nostoc and Anabaena, they can fix nitrogen freely also, that without requiring the plant, but they can also fix it. They've also fixes the nitrogen along with the plant. Like nostoc is with Cycas and Anabaena with Azolla. So they live in the roots of these plants like Cycas and Azolla and then fixes nitrogen. Now, the nitrogen has been fixed to either the ammonia, nitrate, or nitrate. Now, some of the bacteria they just fixes the nitrogen in the form of ammonia and they don't convert it into nitrate and nitrite. And now we know that plant cannot take up the ammonia form. So yes, it has to be converted into either nitrate or nitrite. Now there are other bacteria involved like Nitrosomonas or Nitrococcus. So what they does, the ammonia present in the soil, they convert it into nitrite form. After nitrite, there are other two bacteria involved, and though there are many, but I'm just naming the major ones. So Nitrobacter and Nitrocystis, they convert it into nitrite to nitrate. Yeah. So now the ammonia has been fixed to nitrate. Yes. Now that nitrate will be taken up by plant. Now that nitrate was there, so plant takes up this nitrate, and suppose this is my plant and this plant takes up the nitrate. Now there is nitrate. This nitrate is converted into nitrite and again to ammonia, because this is the form from where amino acids will be formed in the plant. So this process, that is just opposite of what we saw in the uh, nitrification. So yeah, nitrite, nitrate, nitrite and ammonia. So this ammonia will be used by the plants for the protein formation. This is called as nitrogen assimilation. That is, that nitrogen has been used up by the plant. Now this ammonia is converted into proteins. Now when the plant dies, there's plant biomass or the animal biomass. That is, all the dead and decaying matter is called as detritus. So that is having complex proteins. Those complex proteins are converted into simple and then to ammonia back. So this is done by two important bacteria known as Bacillus vulgaris and Bacillus ramosus. So yeah, now what happens? Protein, complex proteins which are present in the plant, they are converted into complex other substances, then to simpler substances, and then to ammonia, and that ammonia is there in the soil. Now this ammonia has to be fixed. It has to be returned back to the environment. So now this ammonia is returned to the environment, that is in the form of N2 by two bacteria known as Pseudomonas and Thiobacillus. So yeah, this is denitrification, where ammonia is converted back to nitrogen and it goes back to the environment. So that was whole about nitrogen cycle, where we studied about four major steps, I would say. First was nitrogen fixation, where we talked about biological nitrogen fixation, where two different bacteria were involved, the normal ones and the blue-green algae. Second one, the second step was how nitrogen is fixed. So first we fixed the nitrogen, then it was nitrification, that the fixed nitrogen, that is ammonia, is converted into nitrate and nitrite. Then the third step was ammonification, where the plant biomass, where there was complex proteins, were converted into simpler ones into ammonia, so that it can go back to the soil, and then the soil in the bacteria like pseudomonas and thiobacillus, that ammonia can be converted into nitrogen. So that's all about denitrification, the last step. So, and we are done with the nitrogen cycle. Thank you. Now I'll tell you, okay, what I will be covering in the next 100 hours if I'll be given the chance. So yeah, so I'll be taking up some units from class 11th biology and some units, some chapters from class 12th biology. So class 11th biology, we have plant physiology, where there are five chapters like transport in plants, mineral nutrition, photosynthesis, respiration, and plant growth and development. After that, I'll cover human physiology, where there are seven chapters like digestion, then there's breathing, circulation, excretion, chemical control, locomotion, and endocrine. Yeah. So then I'll be covering the cell unit, where there are three chapters. So cell, the basic unit of life, then you have biomolecules, then cell cycle. Okay, after that I'll be covering molecular basis of inheritance, and then there are two chapters in biotechnology. So this all I'll be trying to cover in 100 hours. And thank you. Have a great day ahead.